Hi everyone, it's Carolyn from True Crime Chat with Mommy Ramblings, and I'm here with a breaking update about the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell. If you're brand new to the channel, we're much more than a true crime channel. We are a full lifestyle channel, and we'd love to have you as a subscriber. So if you would like to be part of the best community on YouTube, just click on the little subscribe button in the lower corner of the video, and welcome to our community. Now let's take a look about what's going on here. So arrested in New Hampshire today, Ghislaine Maxwell was charged for her role in conspiring with Jeffery Epstein to abuse minors, and we're going to take a look at the indictment. Ghislaine Maxwell, the British socialite and heiress who became a confidant of Jeffery Epstein. She was later implicated in alleged sexual crimes. She was arrested by the FBI in Bedford, New Hampshire around 8:30 a.m. Thursday on charges she conspired with Epstein to sexually abuse minors and is expected to appear in a federal court later today. The 6-count indictment in Manhattan federal court alleges that Maxwell helped Epstein groom girls as young as 14 years old, going back as far as 1994. The case against Ghislaine Maxwell is the prequel to the earlier case that was brought against Jeffrey Epstein, said acting Manhattan U.S. Attorney Audrey Strauss, and that was at a news conference announcing the indictment. The FBI said that it had been tracking her movements for some time, though Strauss said the indictment was handed up only recently. She did not specify how recently, but we're going to look at the actual indictment next. So this is the United States of America versus Ghislaine Maxwell, defendant, count 1, conspiracy to entice minors to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. The grand jury the charges set forth herein stem from the role of Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, in the sexual exploitation and abuse of multiple minor girls by Jeffrey Epstein. In particular, from at least in or about 1994 up to and including at least in or about 1997, Maxwell assisted, facilitated, and contributed to Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of minor girls by, among other things, helping Epstein to recruit, groom, and ultimately abuse victims known to Maxwell and Epstein to be under the age of 18. The victims were as young as 14 years old when they were groomed and abused by Maxwell and Epstein, both of whom knew that certain victims were in fact under the age of 18. 2. As part and in furtherance of their scheme to abuse minor victims, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, and Jeffrey Epstein enticed and caused minor victims to travel to Epstein's residences in different states, which Maxwell knew and intended would result in their grooming for and subjection to sexual abuse. Moreover, in an effort to conceal her crimes, Maxwell repeatedly lied when questioned about her conduct, including in relation to some of the minor victims described herein, when providing testimony under oath in 2016. During the time period charged in this indictment, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, had a personal and professional relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and was among his closest associates. In particular, between in or about 1994 and in or about 1997, Maxwell was in an intimate relationship with Epstein and also was paid by Epstein to manage his various properties. Over the course of their relationship, Maxwell and Epstein were photographed together on multiple occasions, including in the below image. Beginning in at least 1994, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, enticed and groomed multiple minor girls to engage in sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein through a variety of means and methods, including but not limited to the following. Maxwell first attempted to befriend some of Epstein's minor victims prior to their abuse, including by asking the victims about their lives, their schools, and their families. Maxwell and Epstein would spend time building friendships with minor victims by, for example, taking minor victims to the movies or shopping. Some of these outings would involve Maxwell and Epstein spending time together with a minor victim, while some would involve Maxwell or Epstein spending time alone with a minor victim. Having developed a rapport with the victim, Maxwell would try to normalize sexual abuse for a minor victim by, among other things, discussing sexual topics, undressing in front of the victim, being present when a minor victim was undressed, and/or being present for sex acts involving the minor victim and Epstein. Maxwell's presence during minor victims' interactions with Epstein, including interactions where the minor victim was undressed or that involved sex acts with Epstein, helped put the victim at ease because an adult woman was present. For example, in some instances, Maxwell would massage Epstein in front of a minor victim. In other instances, Maxwell encouraged minor victims to provide massages to Epstein, including sexualized massages during which a minor victim would be fully or partially nude. Many of those massages resulted in Epstein sexually abusing the minor victims. In addition, Epstein offered to help some minor victims by paying for travel and/or educational opportunities, and Maxwell encouraged certain victims to accept Epstein's assistance. As a result, victims were made to feel indebted and believed that Maxwell and Epstein were trying to help them. Through this process, Maxwell and Epstein enticed victims to engage in sexual activity with Epstein. In some instances, Maxwell was present for and participated in the sexual abuse of minor victims. Some such incidents occurred in the context of massages, which developed into sexual encounters. Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, facilitated Jeffrey Epstein's access to minor victims, knowing that he had a sexual preference for underage girls and that he intended to engage in sexual activity with those victims. Epstein's resulting abuse of minor victims included, among other things, touching a victim's breasts, touching a victim's genitals, placing a sex toy such as a vibrator on a victim's genitals, directing a victim to touch Epstein while he masturbated, and directing a victim to touch Epstein's genitals. Maxwell and Epstein's victims between approximately in or about 1994 and in or about 1997, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, facilitated Jeffrey Epstein's access to minor victims by, among other things, inducing and enticing and aiding and abetting the inducement and enticement of multiple minor victims. Victims were groomed and/or abused at multiple locations, including the following: a multi-story private residence on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, New York, owned by Epstein, the New York residence, which is depicted in the following photograph. B, an estate in Palm Beach, Florida, owned by Epstein, the Palm Beach residence, which is depicted in the following photograph. C, a ranch in Santa Fe, New Mexico, owned by Epstein, the New Mexico residence, which is depicted in the following photograph. D, Maxwell's personal residence in London, England. 7, among the victims induced or enticed by Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, were minor victims identified herein as minor victim 1, minor victim 2, and minor victim 3. In particular, and during the periods relevant to this indictment, Maxwell engaged in the following acts, among others, with respect to minor victims. Maxwell met minor victim 1 when minor victim 1 was approximately 14 years old. Maxwell subsequently interacted with minor victim 1 on multiple occasions at Epstein's residences. Knowing that minor victim 1 was under the age of 18 at the time, during these interactions, which took place between approximately 1994 and 1997, Maxwell groomed minor victim 1 to engage in sexual acts with Epstein through multiple means. First, Maxwell and Epstein attempted to befriend minor victim 1, taking her to the movies and on shopping trips. Maxwell also asked minor victim 1 about school, her classes, her family, and other aspects of her life. Maxwell then sought to normalize inappropriate and abusive conduct by, among other things, undressing in front of minor victim 1 and being present when minor victim 1 undressed in front of Epstein. Within the first year after Maxwell and Epstein met minor victim 1, Epstein began sexually abusing minor victim 1. Maxwell was present for and involved in some of this abuse. In particular, Maxwell involved minor victim 1 in group sexualized massages of Epstein. During these group sexualized massages, Maxwell and/or minor victim 1 would engage in sex acts with Epstein. Epstein and Maxwell both encouraged minor victim 1 to travel to Epstein's residences in both New York and Florida. As a result, minor victim 1 was sexually abused by Epstein in both New York and Florida. Minor victim 1 was enticed to travel across state lines for the purpose of sexual encounters with Epstein, and Maxwell was aware that Epstein engaged in sexual activity with minor victim 1 after minor victim 1 traveled to Epstein's properties, including in the context of a sexualized massage. Maxwell interacted with minor victim 2 on at least one occasion in or about 1996 at Epstein's residence in New Mexico, when minor victim 2 was under the age of 18. Minor victim 2 had flown into New Mexico from out of state at Epstein's invitation for the purpose of being groomed for and/or subjected to acts of sexual abuse. Maxwell knew that minor victim 2 was under the age of 18 at the time. When in New Mexico, Maxwell and Epstein took minor victim 2 to a movie, and Maxwell took minor victim 2 shopping. Maxwell also discussed minor victim 2's school, classes, and family with minor victim 2. In New Mexico, Maxwell began her efforts to groom minor victim 2 for abuse by Epstein, among other things, providing an unsolicited massage to minor victim 2, during which minor victim 2 was topless. Maxwell also encouraged minor victim 2 to massage Epstein. Maxwell groomed and befriended minor victim 3 in London. Between approximately 1994 and 1995, including during a period of time in which Maxwell knew that minor victim 3 was under the age of 18. Among other things, Maxwell discussed minor victim 3's life and family with minor victim 3. Maxwell introduced minor victim 3 to Epstein and arranged for multiple interactions between minor victim 3 and Epstein. During those interactions, Maxwell engaged minor victim 3 to massage Epstein, knowing that Epstein would engage in sex acts with minor victim 3 during those massages. Minor victim 3 provided Epstein with the requested massages, and during those massages, Epstein sexually abused minor victim 3. Maxwell was aware that Epstein engaged in sexual activity with minor victim 3 on multiple occasions, including at times when minor victim 3 was under the age of 18, including in the context of a sexualized massage. In or about 2016, in the context of a deposition, as part of a civil litigation, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, repeatedly provided false and perjurious statements under oath regarding, among other subjects, her role in facilitating the abuse of minor victims by Jeffrey Epstein, including some of the specific events and acts of abuse detailed above. From at least in or about 1994 up to and including in or about 1997, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein, and others known and unknown, willfully and knowingly did combine, conspire, confederate, and agree together and with each other to commit an offense against the United States, to wit, enticement in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 2422. It was a part and object of the conspiracy that Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein, and others, known and unknown, would and did knowingly persuade, induce, entice, and coerce one and more individuals to travel in interstate and foreign commerce to engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with a criminal offense in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 2422. In furtherance of the conspiracy and to effect the illegal object thereof, the following overt acts, among others, were committed in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. Between in or about 1994 and in or about 1997, when minor victim 1 was under the age of 18, Maxwell participated in multiple group sexual encounters with Epstein and minor victim 1 in New York and Florida. In or about 1996, when minor victim 1 was under the age of 18, minor victim 1 was enticed to travel from Florida to New York for purposes of sexually abusing her at the New York residence, in violation of New York Penal Law, Section 130.55. In or about 1996, when minor victim 2 was under the age of 18, Maxwell provided minor victim 2 with an unsolicited massage in New Mexico, during which minor victim 2 was topless. D. Between in or about 1994, in or about 1995, when minor victim 3 was under the age of 18, Maxwell encouraged Minor victim 3 to provide massages to Epstein in London, England, knowing that Epstein intended to sexually abuse minor victim 3 during those massages. The grand jury further charges the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. From at least in or about 1994 up to and including in or about 1997 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, knowingly did persuade, induce, entice, and coerce an individual to travel in interstate and foreign commerce to engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with a criminal offense, and attempted to do the same and aided and abetted the same, to wit, Maxwell persuaded, induced, enticed, and coerced minor victim 1 to travel from Florida to New York on multiple occasions with the intention that minor victim 1 would engage in one or more sex acts with Jeffery Epstein in violation of New York Penal Law Section 130.55. The grand jury further charges the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. From at least in or about 1994 up to and including in or about 1997 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein, and others known and unknown willfully and knowingly did combine, conspire, confederate, and agree together and with each other to commit an offense against the United States, to wit, transportation of minors in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 2423. It was a part and an object of the conspiracy that Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, Jeffrey Epstein, and others known and unknown, would and did knowingly transport an individual who had not attained the age of 18 in interstate and foreign commerce with the intent that the individual engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with a criminal offense in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 2423. In furtherance of the conspiracy and to effect the illegal object thereof, the following overt acts, among others, were committed in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere between in or about 1994 and in or about 1997. With minor victim 1 under the age of 18, Maxwell participated in multiple group sexual encounters with Epstein and minor victim 1 in New York and Florida. In or about 1996, when minor victim 1 was under the age of 18, minor victim 1 was enticed to travel from Florida to New York for purposes of sexually abusing her at the New York residence in violation of New York Penal Law Section 130.55. In or about 1996, when minor victim 2 was under the age of 18, Maxwell provided minor victim 2 with an unsolicited massage in New Mexico, during which minor victim 2 was topless. Between in or about 1994 and in or about 1995, when minor victim 3 was under the age of 18, Maxwell engaged minor victim 3 to provide massages to Epstein in London, England, knowing that Epstein intended to sexually abuse minor victim 3 during those massages. The grand jury further charges the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. From at least in or about 1994 up to and including in or about 1997 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, knowingly did transport an individual who had not attained the age of 18 in interstate and foreign commerce with the intent that the individual engage in sexual activity for which a person can be charged with a criminal offense and attempt to do so, and aided and abetted the same, to wit, Maxwell arranged for minor victim 1 to be transported from Florida to New York on multiple occasions with the intention that minor victim 1 would engage in one or more sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein in violation of New York Penal Code Section 130.55. The grand jury further charges the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. On or about April 22, 2016, in the Southern District of New York, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, having taken an oath to testify truthfully in the deposition in connection with the case then pending before the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York under docket number 15, Civ 7344 knowingly made false material declarations, to wit, Maxwell gave the following underlined false testimony. Question: did Jeffrey Epstein have a scheme to recruit underage girls for sexual massages, if you know? Her answer: I don't know what you're talking about. Question: list all the people under the age of 18 that you interacted with at any point of Jeffrey's properties. Her answer: I'm not aware of anybody that I interacted with other than obviously the plaintiff, who was 17 at this point. The grand jury further charges the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this indictment are repeated and realleged as if fully set forth within. On or about July 26, 2016, in the Southern District of New York, Ghislaine Maxwell, the defendant, having taken an oath to testify truthfully in a deposition in connection with a case then pending before the United States District Court from the Southern District of New York under docket number 15 Civ 7344, knowingly made false material declarations, to wit, Maxwell gave the following underlined false testimony. Question: were you aware of the presence of sex toys or devices used in sexual activities in Mr. Epstein's Palm Beach house? Her answer: no, not that I recall. Question: do you know whether Mr. Epstein possessed sex toys or devices used in sexual activities? Her answer: no. Question: other than yourself and the blonde and brunette that you have identified as having been involved in three-way sexual activities, with whom did Mr. Epstein have sexual activities? Answer: I wasn't aware that he was having sexual activities with anyone when I was with him other than myself. Question: I want to be sure that I'm clear. Is it your testimony that in the 1990s and 2000s you were not aware that Mr. Epstein was having sexual activities with anyone other than yourself and the blonde and brunette on those few occasions when they were involved with you? Her answer: that is my testimony. That is correct. Question: is it your testimony that you've never given anybody a massage? Her answer: I have not given anyone a massage. Question: you never gave Mr. Epstein a massage? Is that your testimony? Her answer: that is my testimony. Question: you never gave minor victim 2 a massage? Is your testimony? Answer: I never gave minor victim 2 a massage. Signed by Audrey Strauss, acting United States Attorney. And that is that. So this is developing. She is to be in court later today, and we'll update on that probably tonight, if not sooner. But there you have it. There's that indictment and that details from that press conference. So have a great day, guys, and I will talk to you later. Thanks. Bye-bye. And if you found this to be helpful, please like and share it. It really helps the channel. Have a great one. Bye-bye.